It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, July 7th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's looking at development camp standouts.
And closing the books on 2025 season.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. My name is Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19. Are we saying 20 now?
Just say 20.
Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. To keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, yes, indeed. I guess the official end to the 2024-2025 season is at the very end of development camp. So we have reached that milestone. And
Yes.
I think it was a really good development camp. Still have some simmering issues to deal with in the background here for the Flyers, including the Cam York contract or lack thereof.
Yeah, no question. I mean, the Cam York thing's going to linger for a while, but it was a good end to the season. I like this kind of development camp. I don't like the development camp that doesn't have any on-ice activities or doesn't open it up to the public. I don't believe in that. So I think, the Flyers did it right, and I think they got good results. Players talked about results that they got on ice that they can carry with them, and to me, that's the point of development camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to the Cam York situation, the deadline passed for him to file for arbitration. He did not do so. So that allows negotiations to continue, but also leaves the door open for an offer sheet, which I don't think is likely, but it's there nonetheless.
It's there, like the possibilities there, and if this goes a long time, like it did, like back in the day with Travis Konecny or whatever, if another team comes calling and they offer a salary that's just much higher than the Flyers, he has the ability to say, "Yeah, I would accept going there." So the Flyers, I think, should get this done by the end of the month. I think at that point, even if they feel like they're giving him more than they should, they probably should get it done because then you've at least set a price for him, and that means you can trade him in the future if that's what you want to do. But just having it like this isn't a great thing. So I think they should wrap it up.
Yeah, I think so too. But it is definitely something we'll be keeping an eye on until the deal is done or not done, as the
Right.
case may be here. But one of the interesting things about development camp this year at the Flyers skate zone in Voorhees was that the main rink there was under construction. And so we got to see a huge part of the concrete laying process that
Which was
for the sheets.
fascinating.
Totally fascinating, but they also had completed the third ice sheet there, which is a slightly smaller rink
Right.
than a standard size rink. So they used it for 3-on-3 and they used it for, skills and drills kind of portions of development camp, but they dedicated it. So it has the 1967 rink name
Yeah, and
to
it's
it,
got
which
the
is kind of
spectrum
cool.
colors on the up
Yeah,
above,
yeah.
and that's cool.
Yeah, it was really cool, but it
And
was
I'd
good that
want to
they
skate on that sheet. Like if I was going to play in a beer league game, I would want that sheet. It's
Yeah,
smaller.
yeah, I get that. But it was good that they still had 2 sheets to work with for
Yes.
development camp. I think that was very important, and so it was good that they got that together. But both of us were at the scrimmage to end development camp, which of course ended with Jack Nesbitt scoring an overtime goal in a come from behind victory. They were down 0-3,
Yep.
but came back and tied it up, and that team won it in overtime. And I think it was a pretty fun scrimmage.
It was. I don't put much emphasis on the wins and losses. I just want to see how players do,
Sure.
but it's fun.
Nobody really does, other than maybe Danny Briere and Keith Jones, who probably
Right.
had a side bet going on.
Right.
But
Right. But these guys are competitive. So, you give them something to
yeah,
play for, and that's good. I mean, I think that was the point of it. I feel like players played as hard as they could for this time of the year because they're not all in perfect hockey shape. They haven't been on the ice in a while. So this is kind of like they're doing this, then they'll do some training, and then they'll, another month they'll get it back out on the ice. So, it was good from that standpoint.
I think so too. And I think it was good because, we'd seen the drills and it sort of build over the course of the week,
Yes.
to the 3-on-3, which is interesting in and of itself, the day before. And then you have this scrimmage and it's sort of everything is leading to this. And you put all the pieces together of
Hmm.
what they'd been working on. And so I think it was really interesting to see the level of effort we saw from different skaters. I mean, obviously everybody was skating hard, but in terms of skating smart versus skating hard, because as Brent Flair said afterwards, with everything that had gone on, a lot of the guys were gassed. So it was figuring out
Yeah.
to be most effective and efficient out there.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe fans don't realize how much effort like the Flyers team puts into planning all of it ahead of time, making sure they've got things for these guys to do, making sure they have data they can collect, make sure they have video they could look at after. Like there's a lot more that goes on when dev camp shuts down than people realize. So I feel like, the Flyers were like really covering their bases on that. The fact that they were
Hmm.
able to do construction and still not miss a beat with the sheets is really impressive. I think that's something where you don't see that every day. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, like you said, 20 years, and I've been at a lot of these dev camps, and they've never had to do anything like that. So the fact that they pulled that off is pretty remarkable.
I would say so. And, as far as the guys out there, I think the most eyes were on Porter Martone,
Sure.
obviously, because he's the top pick from the most recent draft. And so I think he had a lot of pressure on him, to be honest. And I think he handled it really well.
Yeah, I think Brent Flair said it right. I mean, he's been a big name in Canada for a while, and he's been dealing with media, he said us, you guys, for a long time, and that's fine. I think that's true, and I think I got a little taste of that when I was watching them make the pick with him and just chatting with him, and he was very free and easy, and he was just he's very comfortable in front of the camera, and he's a smart kid. So, but I think the one giveaway that Brent did, which was nice for us, or at least for me, was that he said that they'll talk to Martone soon, with his people and decide, but he has offers out there, so not just one,
Yes, multiple
offers.
offers in terms
So
of his
that's
next step.
something, right? So that's more than just Penn State, because if he was going to the OHL, offers don't mean anything. He can just go wherever he can go back to his team there. So this is clearly a college thing, and I think that's where he's headed. And so now clearly there's another team in the mix here, and I've got people working on that to see if they could get to the bottom of who else might be making an offer for him. So I think that's fascinating.
I think so too. And I personally think college is the right route for him to
Yes.
go. I think he needs to play against bigger, more skilled guys right
Yeah, he needs to
away.
get
I think
stronger. He
he's
knows it
ready
too.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the case. But I also think that, we talked a lot when he got drafted about his offensive skill and, his hands and all of that, which is all really good. But I think in the scrimmage, what we saw from him was a more balanced kind of two-way game. We saw him make some really good defensive plays as well. And so I think that that really says a lot about what this camp does in particular and how he handled it and how he
Yeah.
approached it, right?
Yeah, and he's close. He could be a year away, and so you want to do the right thing with him and buy him for that year. He needs to put on muscle mass. College is the best way to do that,
Sure.
and he could, keep an eye on the team. They can keep an eye on him. Those are all good things. Like it's in sort of a proximity. Not that Penn State's close to anything because it's not, but
Right.
or this other school that might be out there. So either way, I think that's the way it should go. And I think we'll hear something soon because, I was reminded that he can't go to camp and then choose a college. No college is going to
Right.
put up with that. He's going to have to make a decision probably by the end of this month at the latest, maybe even sooner.
Yeah, I would say so because yeah, colleges want to get things going with their
And they have
teams
to go
too,
to
and they
class. They actually have to go to class
yeah,
and they
they
start in late
do.
August. So
They
I forget.
do.
It's been a while since I've been in college, Rachel,
I was definitely in class when I was in college with some of the top athletes on the basketball team at my school.
Oh,
So
I went
I
to,
know how that goes. Then they
yeah,
went.
yeah,
So
I had Olympians at University of Houston when I went there, and they went too.
As far as Jack Nesbitt goes, I think, obviously we have some reservations about his game overall. But that being said, I do think he showed out really well.
Yeah, I liked what I saw from Nesbitt. I mean, his skating needs a little work, but he gets from point A to B. He's a good skater. He's a good passer, rather. He has good details in his defensive game. He knows when to get the puck out and do all of that. He knows how to fill a lane on when team is going down the ice. Uh, he still has to work on his playmaking. Like getting that first pass out of defensive zone and actual playmaking are two different things. Like he could learn something from Luchenko for playmaking. He has a pretty good
Oh,
shot.
sure.
He has a pretty good shot, and he likes to show off the between the leg stuff, and none of that impresses me for any player. Anybody who does that, I don't care. If you do it in an NHL game, then I might care. But it's fine. All those kids like to do that stuff. But he definitely can bring a little bit of an offensive game, but I still look at him more defensively than offensively.
Right. I agree with that. But I did think that he showed out really well in that scrimmage in terms
Hmm.
of trying to show off all the different aspects of his
Yes.
game. It was good that, he got 2 goals in the game, including the game winner. I thought the shot he had on the game winner. Now, we'll put an asterisk on it because it's not top flight goaltending. But that being said, you still have to score the goal, right? So
Yeah. I mean, one of the
I think the
goals.
shot placement was really good.
It was. Like, on the first goal, like, Murtagh did everything. He made the defensive play, he
Yes.
got the puck, he made a great he went up the ice with it, he made a great pass to Nesbitt, he just had to bury it, he did. To his credit, he did, and so, like, yeah, that showed that, he can do those things. So, yeah, if someday he can kinda lead the play like that, then I might think, "Alright, there's maybe a little more here." He's not at that point yet, and maybe it's, gonna be a little while.
Yeah, it seemed really clear based on everything that he himself said over the course of the week that he knows it. He knows
Right.
exactly what he needs to do. And I think that's
Yeah.
the most important part, and that it's very clear he needs to build onto that frame. We all know it. He knows it. And that will only help him in all aspects of his game. So I think that is really good. And I think we got 2 very good development camps from those first round draft picks.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, it was very good for them. That this will help them.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about Jack Murtagh, including the play he made on that goal with Nesbitt and the other stuff he did, and some of the other guys coming up next.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball, under the lights, golf on the green, or high stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must watch events. I still would go Josh Hader with American League Cy Young, but soon you can bet on the All Star game. New to FanDuel, new customers can just bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit fanduel.com to get started.
On tomorrow's show, we're going to take all of the prospects that we saw at development camp and kind of put them into tiers in terms of their readiness to get to the NHL and talk a little bit more about what they need to do in order to achieve that. So that'll be really good because we have a lot of observations on some of these guys that we haven't even talked about yet. So stay tuned for that. Plus, we'll be answering your mailbag questions on Wednesday. So get those in. You can email us at lockdownflyers@gmail.com. Send us a message on any of our socials or comment on our YouTube channel. So, Jack Murtagh, in that scrimmage, I thought it was really interesting that they kept him and Nesbitt together for the entire time, even though they shuffled some of the other lines and shuffled who the center was that was, playing with them, or one of the other line mates. And I think they developed a little bit of chemistry that did pay off in that goal in particular. But Murtagh, man, this guy is nonstop attack, and seeing it from the drills earlier in the week to the 3-on-3 and then to the scrimmage itself, you could just see how he constructs his game so well. And I love this kid so much, and I do think he has a ton of potential.
He does. I mean, that's why I had him as a first round talent. I didn't care about this other narrative that made him drop in the draft. I knew the Flyers got a great value when they got him. He was making, if not the most, some of the most high level passes. That the one with Nesbitt's goal, that was the
Oh
highest
my
level
god.
pass we saw. He made a couple of them in that game. If he lost the puck, he got it back. He was hard to cover. His
Yep.
speed was good. He has good acceleration. It's not like he has great speed overall, but his acceleration is pretty good, and I think it'll get better. He's hard to handle already at the 205 or whatever he's at. He thinks he's going to be in at around 215. And this is why I said I think he could be a second line winger, because I think he already, and Brent talked about this, and he's right. We talked about it too. The training you get at the NTDP, it doesn't matter how good the NTDP was as a team. They may have failed as a team, but they didn't fail training these guys. And you could see that he's a level above a lot of these other guys in camp because of the kind of training he's had. So while other guys may have been sort of trying to, get back into shape or whatever, he was never out of shape. That's just the difference on some of the high level players from that program.
Yeah, I agree, but it was just a pleasure to watch
Oh
him,
yeah.
and the kind of forethought that he had in the plays that he was making, and the way that he had the vision to find the open man or to get himself open. Some guys can do one or the other really well
Right.
and not both, and I really think he can do both of those things pretty well.
Yeah. And, essentially, even though he is not going to be an NHL center, they wanted Nesbitt with him because he could set up Nesbitt. And that's what he was
Yeah.
doing. Even though Nesbitt's supposed to be the center and setting up him, he's not there right now, able to do that in his game against these type of players. So Murtagh was doing it. Murtagh was doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Alex Bump, I think obviously was maybe the second biggest standout of
Hmm.
camp, I would say, and rightfully so. He should have been. That's the thing. Is like the expectation was for him to be that guy, and I
Hmm.
think he achieved it at this camp. And he's had so much experience. I think he said it was his fourth
Yeah, it's his
development
fourth
camp
development camp.
at this point, and he kind of knows the ropes, but he had to really show that he deserved to take a run at the NHL lineup. And just again, the kinds of plays he was making was just so far and above most of the other guys that were there in terms of driving into the corners and using all aspects of the ice around the net to try and create plays. And that's what he did so well in college.
Yeah, yeah, in college. So here's my thing. In camp, he did all that. He was terrific in the scrimmage. He should be, and he was really trying to set up his guys. Knuble, he really gave
Yeah.
him a great
Yeah,
setup where
we'll
he could
talk
have
about
scored,
Knuble too.
and he just didn't do it. So that's fine.
Right.
My thought is this though: you could let him go into camp. You could let him try for a job. You could even give him a couple NHL games. But he did not dominate the AHL. He didn't dominate in the playoffs. He struggled in the playoffs. And so we have to remember what an AHL season, either full or half, can do for a player. And so, like all of this talk about him making the team, I just say nope. I'll let him go through the motions and try and do it and give me your all, kid. And then I'm still going to send you to the Phantoms in the end, because I don't care that if Tyson Forster's hurt, I'm going to find a different way to fill that spot and buy time for you so you could develop correctly. I don't want players developing at the NHL level. That's just me.
Sure, and I completely understand that. I think that he is gonna give it his all, and
Hmm.
I do believe they're going to, for multiple reasons, give him those couple of NHL games,
Sure.
but I do think that what he learned at the AHL level in the playoffs last year leads me to believe that he does belong in the AHL for an extended period of time. Could he get a call up midseason? I think that's
Absolutely.
very, very possible, but he needs at least a couple of months down there to just rebuild some of the stuff and readjust to the physicality and to the speed and the pace
Speed,
and
goalless droughts, scoreless droughts. If he goes
yeah,
10
run
games
through the
without any
gamut a little
points
bit.
in the NHL, like, do you want him to do that? I don't. I don't think it's good for him to do that. And there's a new coach, so there's pressure on the coach. Like, I just feel like he's
Right.
not there yet. He's not, with Jet Luchenko, that's a different situation because they're going to be in a tough spot as to what to actually do with him. So that one, I'll cut him some slack for. For this one, I think they still should give him the more development.
Right, and I think, Brent Flair has the right attitude about it in a lot of ways, that Bump did everything he needed to do at
Yes.
this development camp. Is that enough to get him a spot in the NHL? To be determined, but our opinion is he shouldn't.
Right.
But I think, he can earn it. He can
Yeah, sure.
absolutely
Give him
earn
the
it.
chance. But
Yeah.
he's got to be one of the best guys in camp, best guy in preseason. And preseason is not even a really portender of what might happen in the regular season. So that's why give him a couple games and see how he looks out there. Then you'll kind of know.
Right. Now, I do wanna talk about Cole Knuble because he is a prospect that's been around for a while now,
Hmm.
still doesn't have that ELC. He's got
Nope.
1 more year of eligibility to get it, and I also think Cole Knuble did everything he needed to do at this camp. I thought he looked really strong. I thought everything took a huge step forward from last year, from his skating to his passing. Now,
Hmm.
sometimes he is a little bit of a whirl out there.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just part of his game
But
in
things are happening
particular.
when he's out there at least. He's making things
Yes.
happen. And again, they gave Ty Murchison a ELC, and he didn't show me much other than he knocked the guy down once, but they won't give it to him. So it's like these things make me scratch my head, because if it's about like getting faster, he got faster. If it's about effort, he showed the effort. It's about showing up in that game, he showed up in that game. Yeah, he's not going to be a high level offensive guy. We know that, but he makes things happen out there. He plays defense, and he definitely includes his line mates in a lot of action. And even though he may not be able to finish as much, they'll be able to.
Right, and it's very clear they just want him to play the additional year in college before
Right.
giving him the contract, and I get that to a large degree, but at the same time, I asked Brent Flair
Yep.
directly, "What does he have to do to get the contract?" And Brent Flair's answer was, "Finish out the season." That was not a specific answer related
No.
to his skill, to his speed, to his size, anything. It was
No.
just, "Play another year, kid."
Yeah.
And to me, that's an okay answer if you back it up with the why he needs to play another year and what he can learn, but we did not get that answer, and
No.
I am unsatisfied by it, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I agree. I mean, if you signed him and you had him play with the Phantoms, he would have a really good AHL season, which would be really
He
good
would,
for him. And
he would.
that's what I don't get. Like, I'm not saying college is going to be bad for him. It's never bad, but
No, no.
he's ready for another challenge, I think, and that would be the challenge.
Yeah, and if I were Cole Knuble and I heard Brent Flair say that, I would be extremely frustrated by
Yeah,
that because how does that help him? How, like, I don't understand that answer. So I was very disheartened by that answer, but
it's almost
I
like, hey,
think
we have a vision for you, and you're going to have to just follow that. You did great, kid, but keep working
yeah.
on it.
Yeah. Now there was a couple other of the draft picks from this year that stood out in different ways. Shane Vansaghi, I thought again, he's a little bit of a
He's a pain in the ass out there.
well, yeah.
He's hitting everything that moves. He has fun out
Mhm.
there. He's a good passer.
He's a wrecking ball. That
Yeah,
was
he's a
what
wrecking
I was
ball.
looking for.
Yeah, he shakes things loose for sure. He doesn't have a high level shot. Maybe he'll get that. His shot selection is not great either, but he can make a good
Mhm.
pass, and he definitely
Oh yeah.
can possess the puck. And so those things are good.
Yeah, I thought in the scrimmage he had a couple really good solid moves that he tried to
Yes.
put on. They didn't go, but the moves were there, the thought process was
Yeah.
there, and he was able to get around defenders, like, pretty solidly, so,
Hmm.
I was very pleased by that, but I definitely see, where he's going with his game, and I think he just needs to refine it a little bit more, like,
Yeah.
just take the edge off it a little bit, and I think he can use that skill that he does have to his advantage.
Well, but you could see how he was able to adjust in season to college hockey. His physicality helped him adjust. And so,
Right.
he had to do that. And he didn't have a great offensive season, but he had an okay season.
Yeah, so he is able to do that. Matthew Gard, I
Hmm.
thought also, I wasn't sure what to make of him with the pick. Now, I mean, we talked about him, that he's a strong player on a very weak team. And so how is he going to blend in with these prospects was a question that I had, but really think he held his own and kind of matched with the other second rounders, like except for maybe Murtagh, but I think that group of second rounders was pretty even overall.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the shot Murtagh does, and
Right.
he has some offense in him, some playmaking, but he's more again a two-way, really good defensive guy. Got a good long reach, can skate, will get stronger because he's lanky right now, and can create some offense. But it's not going to be a high offensive thing. But he'll cover, the middle of the ice. He'll do those other things. So he's a bottom six guy for sure, and we'll see. I mean, if there is more offense that comes out, then he'll be a third line guy. He's definitely not going to be a second line guy.
Right, and I thought in the scrimmage in particular, he did some of the workhorse kind of
Yes.
duties of like between him and the line mates. He was just kind of the cleanup crew and the retrieval crew. And I just felt like he was a good complement to the other guys that he was skating with, like pretty much every time he was out there.
Yeah, and he pushed back at some of the big guys in the crease with some good
Yep.
force. Like so, he's not backing down when he's in scoring areas, and that's good.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, there are more guys to talk about. We're going to talk about them tomorrow when we kind of put the guys in tiers. In the meantime, it is Monday, so we will have our new off-season poll question plus our nemesis of the week coming up next. All right. So, with our weekly poll question this week, last week we talked specifically about Porter Martone and Jet Luchenko, and which of them had a shot at getting 8 or more games. But now let's talk about player impact overall. It's just not a matter of getting to the NHL. It's what do you do when you get there, right?
Hmm.
So, our question this week is which Flyers prospect do you think will make the biggest immediate impact when they make the Flyers roster? Your options are Porter Martone, Oliver Bonk, Alex Bump, and Carson Bjarnason. Throw in the goaltender in there in the conversation. So we will put a link to that poll in the show notes as well as it's posted on our YouTube channel. So let us know who you think is going to make the biggest impact. Let us know why you selected who you did in the comments, or if there's another player that is not on that list, put that player in the comments as well. Looking at our nemesis of the week. Last week, I talked about dressing for development camp because it's freezing cold in that rink. And I would say I had a mixed bag of success on that ratio. I think my sweater on the first day was not warm enough. I was freezing cold and I lost circulation. It was real bad. But the second time I was there, we got to be in the warm room for a little bit, and the sweater I brought was much better. So I would give myself a C grade on my preparedness for Dev Camp this year. Russ, you talked about airplane etiquette because you were talking about your trip back from the
Hmm.
NHL draft, and there was some inappropriate behavior from some other passengers on your flight on your return. So, still a little bit draft related there. For me this week, we still don't have the NHL schedule. Now, it could come out today, but I don't know, man. I have my doubts at this point, and I would really like to be able to plan some road trips here. I would like to be able to go see the Flyers on the road in a couple of cities this upcoming season. Maybe make it up to Canada would be nice, and I can't do it. I can't make those plans. NHL, where's my schedule? NHL.
Yeah, I mean, teams want to market like the Flyers have no idea when this schedule is going to drop, and they have things they want to push, and they can't do it. It's not good for the marketing of the league. Like it's just the longer they wait, the worse it gets for that because once fans go into hibernation for the summer, you lose them for a while. Hockey fans, that's it.
Right, and, as we said, last year, they released the schedule on July 2nd, so, like, the day after free agency started, and, all the reporters
That's the good
and
timing.
hockey media is still engaged,
Yep.
but by now, after the July 4th holiday in the US, everybody's checked out. So,
Yeah.
it's just bad timing.
It is. It's not great timing. Um, yeah, my nemesis is going to be teams need to realize that like development camp, besides being good for players, it's good for the fans. Remember, the fans are going to show up to games, scrimmages that you have. They're going to show up to meet the players. Like Roger McQueen was signing tons of autographs in Anaheim. That's how you do it. The teams that
Right.
closed it to the public, you're not doing it right. I don't care if you're a team like the Toronto Maple Leafs that don't have to worry about ticket sales. I still think there's something for goodwill and fans and kind of throwing them a bone at the end of a year that was definitely a frustrating year and you just lost your best player. Maybe time to market some new players, things like that. I just feel like these are missed opportunities. And again, this was a chance, this one chance for a player that came back from the draft, maybe a high pick for these teams, maybe not as much for the Leafs, but other teams, and they can connect with the fans before they go off to wherever because most aren't going to play in the NHL. And I feel like some teams don't get that. So I feel like they could do better. So I'm just saying do better.
Right, and it's good that the Flyers do get it,
Yeah.
and they do it right, like we talked about at
Yeah.
the top of the show, and, everything was open
Yep.
and accessible. I mean, obviously, except for day 1 where it was just all video and
Yeah. Sure.
introductions, but, of course, there's gonna be some stuff that's gonna
Yeah,
be
they had a
private,
three on
but
three and they had a scrimmage and fans got to see
yep.
that and see these players and see them with
Even
skates
with the
on.
building under construction,
Right.
they managed to do it, and, Dan Hilferty, who, God bless him, he's there to almost all these kinds of events, and
I know.
he went around and shook hands with all the fans,
Fans,
who had come
media,
to attend.
everybody.
Everybody. So they just make themselves so accessible, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty grateful to the Flyers, honestly, for that, but there
Yeah.
are some teams that don't do it, and, like, I know the Oilers are notorious, they never have open practices,
The Rangers
it's just
rarely
not
do.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like this is a
So,
chance to not only market to your fans, but let them see some things. Let them have some goodwill with your team. Stop making it a guessing game. That's all.
yeah. So, I'm glad your nemesis was not the Flyers, that it was other teams that don't do what the Flyers do. So, we like that. We always like to see that. There's a lot of things we can talk about with the Flyers that,
Sure.
we can be critical of, but this is not one of
No,
them
this isn't
for
one of them.
sure. For sure. All right, that will do it for today's show. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more about the prospects and where they stand in the organization. And of course, we'll have that mailbag on the Wednesday show. So let us know your questions on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There is no off season. It brings you the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. I'm on the show every Friday. You can find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.